Blair Best. Tonight on The Story, we're taking you back to Portland City Hall for the first City Council meeting of 2025. And there's a lot to talk about because not only is it the first session of the new year, it's the first city meeting under the new form of government where all 12 city councilors are sitting in chambers together for the first time.
You know, I think everybody has some jitters today.
Yes, my office is cute.
I'm excited that we are here.
We checked in with councilors from each district and got an update from Mayor Keith Wilson on Portland's homeless crisis. It's our big story tonight. Inside a packed Portland City Hall, dozens poured into council chambers and past heavy security to get a good look at Portland's 12 new councilors on day one.
This is a huge moment for Portland.
For the first time in more than 100 years, the city of Portland is broken up into 4 districts, each represented by 3 councilors. We caught up with some of them on their first day.
I hope to be a voice for the dispossessed. That is what I feel like I have built my entire political career on, and I'm here to fight for them.
It's knowing that your words matter, that they carry weight. I think there's a seriousness in that is on the minds of all of us.
I mean, I think, of course, if you don't have any anxiety, then you're not being realistic. We're going to be dealing with a really difficult budget year, and we're going to be making hard decisions. But I also think that as long as we're being guided by community, then we're going to be okay.
So it's really important that we remember we're nonpartisan, and that we should listen to the people who pay the taxes here, not the people who are paid to talk to us.
To start off Thursday's meeting, a poem.
You do not need to be fully formed to go fully forward. So forward, oh forward, go.
First up on the agenda, amending some new council rules.
Colleagues, this is a housekeeping item,
which was quickly interrupted by technical difficulties.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. We need to take a brief recess to troubleshoot an audio issue that we're having.
About 30 minutes later, Mayor-elect Keith Wilson sat front row as council struggled to agree on who should be council president, a role that carries the power to decide on council agendas, what gets discussed and when. A 7-vote majority was needed, but after numerous attempts came to a 6-6 tie, a motion to have Mayor Wilson make the tie-breaking call caused some to bristle.
And I think it's completely inappropriate to try to adjust the rules in any way to have the mayor have a say on who our leaders are.
I've been told from everybody here that we want to work together and kumbaya and be in good faith. And now I feel a little bit ambushed about this decision, if I can be very frank.
After several rounds of votes and 15-minute breaks, Elana Pirtle-Guiney was selected for president and Tiffany Koyama-Lane will be vice president.
I have a lot of experience working with community. I have a lot of experience writing policy. I have worked with working people for my entire career, and I'm hoping to be able to bring that all to both help us tackle the challenges that we face in the city as a whole and also help tackle some of the issues that District 2 specifically is struggling with.
I view this position as someone that's able to spend some time organizing this group, someone who's going to spend time thinking about the health of us as a body of 12.
And it wouldn't be a day in City Hall if the issue of homelessness didn't come up, with County Chair Jessica Vega-Peterson stopping by.
All of us know that we cannot solve the homelessness crisis fast enough.
Across the hall from council chambers, the leaders of the city and county gave an update on their response to the crisis.
I will say Mayor Wilson, and it feels very good to call you Mayor Wilson, has been clear about adding to our shelter strategy right away.
On January 7th, 200 overnight shelter beds will open for the next 90 days, costing the county and city a combined $750,000 from existing budgets.
We should not let Portlanders suffer and die on the streets. That's not Portland. That's not who we are. That is not our values.
Mayor Wilson confirmed Portland will continue to send taxpayer dollars to the county-run Joint Office of Homeless Services.
Yeah, that's a commitment. You know, I had mentioned that over the course of the election. Chair Vega-Peterson and her team have worked so hard on that. It is not perfect, but it's 80%. It's easier to fix the 20% than throwing the whole thing out and starting a whole new restructure. We don't have time to start from scratch.
Now, it is worth noting when council is voting on ordinances or city policy, Mayor Wilson will have the tie-breaking vote if councilors are tied. But since the election of a council president was deemed a council decision by the city attorney, they had to figure it out for themselves. Now, because our show is unlike any other in the market, I want to go back to that heated debate around this decision. It all started after they reached the first tie, and Loretta Smith, councilor for District 1 in East Portland, challenged the city attorney and wanted to pass a motion to give Mayor Keith Wilson the power to break that tie, which at the time was between councilors Candace Avalos and Olivia Clark.
I have a question in terms of procedure. Looking in the charter, it says if the council has a tie on vote for council president, the mayor must use his power and responsibility to break tie votes.
For the record, Robert Taylor, city attorney, thank you for the question. It is very important, as well as the answer. For that reason, I have prepared an analysis on this vote to elect the council president. The charter reserves that decision solely to the 12 members who are present.
That is your assessment and your recommendation, your legal counsel, but it does not reflect what is in the current charter.
I believe that the analysis we have provided does reflect the requirement of the charter.
I will push back on the thought that just because we didn't know before, that ignorance of the law and the charter is no excuse for us not to follow the charter as it is stated in the charter. So I would like to be able to finish this vote and be able to take the vote.
All right, now as you might guess, the vibe in the room has changed. You could really start to feel the tension between Councilor Smith and the city attorney, and then other councilors began to chime in. Listen.
I was under the impression that the mayor would not be part of this vote, same as your analysis. So thank you for providing that for us. But additionally, I think that we as a council body have really been trying to work well together in order to, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna ask the city attorney to continue to look for it. I think that as a body, we've been trying to be transparent with one another and work in good faith. And the fact that this has not come up until now, I find very frustrating.
The spirit of this, I am strongly against. Thank you.
I believe that a game of paper, scissors, rock is a more suitable and respectful way of resolving such an issue than one.
So numerous recesses were called during this process, and between those and the pauses for all the technical issues, the day really started to drag. But they eventually reached a majority vote of 7 councilors. Those who had originally voted for Olivia Clark switched their vote to Pirtle-Guiney. Now, throughout this, we could already start to see the groups or the cliques forming on council, something to keep an eye on moving forward. And personally, honestly, the day started off hopeful. Felt like this could be some smooth sailing because of the optimism over the past few months. But that was quickly met with a dose of reality when they tried to vote for a president, their very first major order of business. All right, so what are your takeaways from day one of this new city council? Were they as you expected? Any surprises? Let us know. Email the story at kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. Today, the new city councilors also got a chance to ask the mayor and deputy administrators about some of the biggest priorities in their districts. Dan Ryan has been around City Hall for a while. He's been called the sole survivor from the previous council. He's representing District 2 now in North and Northeast Portland. He wanted to hear how the new mayor plans to support small businesses after council heard testimony from a small business owner who said they've been facing years of vandalism and violence.
I just want to say that that voice that we heard today is a really common voice out there, and so many need relief. And as we have a revenue problem right now, and our revenue is tied into business licenses. So I think I just wanted to amplify the testimony we heard earlier, and then in your budget to give some more love to that revenue that keeps our small businesses whole at this time.
Mayor Wilson responded that homelessness is his #1 priority, but that he expects many of the issues business owners face will be reduced once homelessness is resolved. Okay, Councilor Olivia Clark, who represents District 4 on the west side of Portland, asked about plans for the critical energy infrastructure hub. Those are the giant tanks along Highway 30 in northwest Portland, filled with hundreds of thousands of gallons of the state's fuel supply. So when a big earthquake comes, the ground beneath the tanks will liquefy, setting off a catastrophic environmental disaster.
For many years now, we've been partnering with the state and the county to look at different models and tools that we could use to both address the future of the site, but also, frankly, address the seismic concerns that our communities have about a cataclysmic event that could, directly, harm our neighborhoods, because we're talking about a very, aging infrastructure, but an area that needs a future, a future strategic state. Like, what are we going to do with that area, given its location? And last but not least, as you all know, the CEI is responsible for about 80% of the state's fuel. So we have to think about, like, if we're going to move it, where does it go? So that's a larger conversation beyond the city of Portland that I think we welcome being a part of course. But so the answer to your question is yes, we are very much activating around putting together, I don't know if it's a task force, but a work plan at BPS to address that.
Mayor Wilson also said he wants to work together with Multnomah County to address the risks posed by the CEI hub and to reduce the overall amount of liquid fuel the city uses. All right, let's close the loop now on a topic we've covered a lot here on the story. Last year, regarding Oregon's Silicon Forest, it involved Governor Tina Kotek's land use superpower, allowing her to bring land into an urban growth boundary to be used for things like semiconductors. Now, since she was eyeing 373 acres of rural land near Hillsborough, just south of Highway 26, the hope was that the land would attract one of 3 planned federal semiconductor facilities and hundreds of millions of federal dollars along with it. The bill that gave Kotek that power, Senate Bill 4, had a deadline of December 31st to finalize the plan to bring the land into the urban growth boundary. But late last week, Kotek abandoned the plan, saying she did not see a legal path forward. Opponents had all but promised to sue if the governor moved forward, protesting outside the lone public meeting that was held in the fall, wanting to keep the farmland just the way it is. And of course, Intel's fall from financial grace this past year did not help bolster Oregon as a semiconductor destination in the eyes of the federal government. The first 2 federal facilities were announced for upstate New York and California's Silicon Valley. No word yet on the third. But it's a bit of a surprise that Kotek's plan crumbled in the 11th hour, because it seemed Oregon was a front runner to land one of the 3 federal facilities, with President Biden's Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, calling Oregon Silicon Forest, quote, exceptional when she visited in the spring of 2023.
Not every state has a CHIPS Act, a state CHIPS Act, which includes very smart investments like worker training, site selection, and investments in companies. Not every state has, world-class community colleges that are already working with industry. So, as I said, it's competitive, of course, but what you have here is quite exceptional.
Well, not exceptional enough, apparently. So does that mean any land use battles are over? Definitely not. The governor may not have that urban growth boundary superpower any longer, but she left the door wide open in her statement about this latest plan. The governor believes that for the long-term success of Oregon's economy, there may be a need for more industrial land outside of existing UGBs, but the constraints of Senate Bill 4 limit her authority at this time. All right, coming up next on the story, the new year is here, and that means new laws in both Oregon and Washington. We'll highlight a few that you should be aware of, from school bus cameras to keeping pedestrians and cyclists safe. That's all when the story returns. All right, now let's get to some of your thoughts on my story from earlier this week on that car crash house in Northeast Portland. Neighbors and tenants tell me the house along Northeast Weidler and 24th has been hit by cars some 30 times over the years. The latest crash happened the night of Christmas Eve, sparking a massive fire. There it is right there. PBOT says they made small changes to the area 2 years ago, raising traffic signs, adding reflective bumps and a solid white line to discourage passing. But they stressed they're limited in what more they can do because the road is an emergency transportation route for first responders, meaning things like speed bumps cannot be installed. Instead, they plan to install speed reader boards, seeing as speed is a contributing factor in many of these crashes. But anything more than that, they say, likely is not in the cards.
Frankly, if we were going to do something bigger, it would probably require a larger redesign, and that we're limited to with our budget, unfortunately.
Okay, so that explanation did not sit well with many of you. You guys filled our email and voicemail inboxes with messages like this one from Brian. What about a guardrail parallel and in front of the properties? Simple, easy to install, easy to paint. Come on, PBOT, your explanations ring hollow when a guardrail would protect property and pedestrians and have no effect on transportation. Do better.
I've been in the construction industry pretty much all my life. At the curb, they could stack some Jersey barriers, and it would never be a problem with that home again. Being hit over 30 times in its span, this is just completely unacceptable.
Another anonymous viewer wrote to us they have bollards in front of the courthouses, police station, and federal buildings downtown. Certainly 3 or 4 of those in the planting strip in front of that building would stop the occasional speeder or drunk driver. That the city, quote, just can't do anything is a major cop-out and becoming indicative of PDX in general. The city that works, my butt. Okay, so a few of you also recommended boulders in front of the home, and we've seen the city use those numerous times to discourage homeless camps on some properties. But this comment on our YouTube page really got us thinking. They wrote, it's not the city's responsibility to protect your private property. That's on the homeowner. Can you imagine this if the city is required to put barriers in front of all houses in the city that could possibly be hit by a car? That's every house in Portland pretty much. People never want to take responsibility and want us taxpayers to pay for everything. So we took your suggestions and the question about who is responsible straight to PBOT this week to get some answers. And they told us anything that would be installed on private property would be the responsibility of the homeowner. PBOT traffic engineers will be investigating this intersection to see if there are additional solutions the Bureau might implement within the public right-of-way. So maybe bigger changes are coming, but not anytime soon. A neighbor wrote to us earlier today saying they saw a PBOT truck at the corner this morning, so we'll see. We also asked Portland Police if the driver who hit the house on Christmas Eve causing that fire there has been found, since they apparently ran off after the crash. But so far tonight, police have not gotten back to us. Now, it is a new year, and that means several new laws are going into effect throughout the Northwest. And we wanted to highlight a few that you should be aware of. A big one here in Oregon that should have an impact here in Portland is penalties for using drugs on public transit are going up. Using drugs on transit was always prohibited, but it was not grounds for arrest when Measure 110 was in effect. But now that possession of hard drugs has been recriminalized, if someone uses drugs on transit, they can face a Class A misdemeanor charge, up to 364 days in jail, or a $6,200 fine. They're also eligible for state-funded drug addiction treatment programs. All right, the next one. If your iPhone breaks, you were pretty much out of luck trying to get it fixed anywhere but Apple. Until now. A right to repair law is now in effect in Oregon. Lots of companies were gatekeeping the ability to fix products so that you might have to bring it to them, but not anymore. That means you or independent repair shops can have access to tools and diagrams to fix your own devices. And school buses in Oregon can now have external cameras installed to catch drivers who illegally pass buses that are stopped within their red lights or on stop sign or when their stop sign is out. The school districts can send the video to law enforcement. Anyone who drives past the bus when it's stopped can potentially get a ticket. Also, school board meetings are now required to be recorded and made public. Many districts already do this, but tiny districts with fewer than 50 students do not have to worry about it. And for districts that have spotty internet access, an audio recording is just fine. Executive sessions, though, are still private. Now to a few in the state of Washington. Drivers for delivery apps like Uber Eats and DoorDash are now eligible for expanded paid sick time, things like childcare, emergencies, and closures because of the weather. And there are now more criminal penalties for drivers who hit and kill what the state calls vulnerable users of the road. Think pedestrians, cyclists, and those who use wheelchairs. First offense is now a gross misdemeanor, and you could go to jail for nearly a year, have to pay a fine of $1,000 to $5,000, and get a 90-day driving suspension. The state is also establishing a hate crimes hotline overseen by the Attorney General's office. It'll provide trauma-informed support for victims and help them contact law enforcement if needed. And one more workplace safety law for exotic dancers in Washington. Strip club employees must complete training on topics including human trafficking and first aid. And there is one more new law in Washington that you should know about, and it relates to the beloved southern resident orca population. What boaters and whale lovers need to know, and why the new year brought both grief and joy to one orca pod. That's when the story returns. Well, it has been both a difficult and joyous start to the new year for southern resident orcas in the Northwest. The group known as the J-Pod lost a calf, but also gained one. Sharon Yu gives us an orca outlook for 2025, what researchers and whale lovers are hoping to see, and a new law now in place to protect them.
Are they up?
Dozens of people chose to start 2025 at Constellation Park in West Seattle.
Oh yeah, here you go. 1, 2, 3.
Hoping to catch a glimpse of our coast's beloved creatures.
Wow, they're so close to the shore over there.
Tragic news of J61's death and the confirmation of the birth of another J-Pod baby make whale lovers like Kirsty Moole
Today's the day.
Especially protective. Moole was among the few who called the Be Whale Wise hotline to report a yacht that seemed to be cruising too close and too long with the pod visible from the park. The law mandating boaters stay 1,000 yards away from southern residents.
We just lost a calf, and vessel disturbance is, one of the top 3 things that they are suffering with.
J61's death is especially poignant because this is the second time Tahlequah has lost her calf. Tahlequah broke hearts around the world after she carried her dead calf for 17 days on her head in a tour of grief in 2018.
For that to happen again just shows that we haven't made enough progress. We haven't done enough to bring back the salmon.
Samish Indian Nations Chairman Tom Wooten says his people and most Coast Salish folk see killer whales as their ancestors. So preventing a loss in any of the pods by removing dams and restoring salmon populations is top priority for the tribe.
I don't know that there's a silver bullet or one thing that's going to fix everything, but I think if we try everything that we can at this point, we're going to make a difference.
It'll only be a matter of time before we learn more about the pod's newest calf, called J62. Researchers were on the water yesterday to try and confirm its mother and gender, and we'll keep you posted. Well, that is the end of our show, folks. Thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can always stream the story on your own schedule. Just download the free KGW Plus app, available now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. And in the meantime, enjoy your Thursday night. I've got a story from the Oregon coast coming your way tomorrow night at 6:30. See you then.